Hey everyone, I want to show you something. This pond behind me is almost like a mirror of my emotional state living with bipolar disorder. Probably one of the best analogies I can use. Let's dive in, shall we? The pond is always with me, everywhere I go, day and night. People who don't know me might think my pond is calm, healthy, and warm on the surface. But that couldn't be farther from the truth. You see, I live with an invisible illness called bipolar disorder, and it plagues the health of my pond. An illness so burdensome that I often go to great lengths to hide it. It's just easier than trying to explain the ripples to people. Much like my mind, the surface of the water is rarely ever still. The normal ups and downs of life create constant ripples. Unless I'm sleeping or meditating, the water always moves, just a little. That's life for anyone. It's when these ripples start preventing me from living my life that makes the difference between an illness and normal ups and downs. Speaking of ups and downs, I typically cycle between some variation of mania and depression. At any given time, I could be anywhere on the spectrum, including stable. I'm also what's known as a rapid cycler, which is kind of like watching the seasons change at my pond faster and more often. Let's start by exploring the higher end of the spectrum, which would be the different types of mania. Euphoric mania can be like a sunny day where there's life everywhere and the pond is stunningly beautiful. It's intoxicating and makes me chase days like that. Sometimes I'd do anything for a sunny day. I have to be careful though. If I don't get rest, the ripples start to bounce off of each other so quickly that I can't keep my thoughts together. I can't focus or stay on task, which is exhausting. There's also another side of mania, dysphoric mania. This is where my pond is buzzing so much that I get overstimulated, overwhelmed, or downright angry. It might feel good to throw rocks when I'm angry, until they hit the water. If I don't do something about my mania right away, it can progress into the ultimate disruption, which is psychotic mania or psychosis. Psychosis is where I get lost in the woods around my pond, like a fish out of water. I feel scared, paranoid, angry, disconnected, and confused all at once. It's a little hard to put into words. The feelings get so intense that I lose my ability to function and often end up hospitalized. Sometimes the only way back to my pond is to ask someone for directions. I make sure to ask people for help who know the way back, aka a doctor. If I ask someone who doesn't, I might get even more lost. Now let's talk about the polar opposite of dysphoric and euphoric mania, my depression. This is where I lose myself in the abyss of the water's depth. It's dark, cold, and motionless down there. It's a graveyard of dead plants and fish. The mud on the bottom of the pond makes me feel like I'm moving through molasses. Even if I can see light on the surface, I'm too exhausted to swim up there. People reach out to me, but I either ignore them or I can't reach far enough. Maybe sometimes I'll pull them down underwater with me. I'm learning to meet people halfway so they don't have to pull so hard to get me out of the abyss. Now, bipolar isn't just up or down. It can actually be both. Some of my worst episodes are where I'm depressed and manic at the same time. Mixed episodes are like my pond freezing over in the middle of summer. It feels like I'm suffocating at the bottom of the pond, but too depressed to swim to the surface. It's a very uncomfortable feeling. Big emotional storms can disrupt my pond so much that water splashes out of it. Sometimes it unintentionally gets people around me wet and impacts their life too. Most of my loved ones don't like getting wet at all. They stay clear of the storms and come back on sunny days. I don't blame them. Unless they've educated themselves, it can be hard to know where to begin or how to help. Now let's further explore triggers. Triggers are the outside influences like people, places, or things that throw rocks in my pond. I can't always stop the rocks, but I'm slowly learning to see them coming. I'm also learning to prepare for them. It might start with a bad night's sleep, the surface ripples. Then I have a shitty day at work. The water starts simmering. I get home and binge eat to cope. The water starts to boil. I don't sleep again. Waves start to form in my pond. I forget to take my meds. Now I'm bracing for a tsunami. The scary ones are the boulders. If I don't have a management plan and someone dies or something tragic happens, it might splash so much water out of my pond that it takes months or years just to refill the water. Everyone experiences tragedy, but bipolar just makes the rocks bigger and the recovery time slower, especially when untreated. Now there's a solid difference between triggers and bipolar episodes, although the result is often the same. Triggers are the rocks being thrown into the pond. Episodes are when the same splash happens, just without the rock. It's like the effect without a tangible cause. It sucks to have a giant splash in my pond and not know where it came from, especially when it disrupts my whole life. This makes it so easy to blame my partner, friends, or coworkers for the splash. I've accused so many people of throwing rocks when they weren't even near my pond. I'm still working on that because the splashes are very real. It's the rocks that often aren't. The illness can prevent me from knowing the difference. Many of us also have symptoms related to trauma or PTSD. If it's trauma related, it's like someone blast fishing on my pond, throwing sticks of dynamite in there that sink to the heart of my pond before they explode. It's toxic for the health of my pond. It can kill the life in my pond for quite some time. It also flows together with the waves of my bipolar symptoms to form emotional tidal waves. Through much training, i.e. therapy, I'm learning to recognize these blast fishermen and wet their fuses before they get to my pond. Therapy has helped me regain control over some of the things that happen at my pond. I know therapy isn't for everyone, but it's sure helped me. Here's another factor. I have a partner. As we've gotten closer over the years, our ponds have connected. Now, anything that happens in my pond impacts my partner's pond. I have to keep that in mind all the time. If I don't take care of my pond, both of our ponds stagnate. It's not fair if my partner has to clean both ponds or if I throw a rock in my partner's pond. That can get old really fast. I've had plenty of partners or friends leave because my pond was too toxic. No one likes to swim in a dirty pond. Education and awareness have gone a very long way. My partner and I are gradually starting to see the rocks coming before they hit the water. I can even name them. I know what type they are and can estimate their impact. This helps me take power away from the illness. I can see it for what it is. Recovery from episodes takes time because a lot happens after a splash. The ripples keep hitting themselves and bouncing off of each other. They might go to one side of the pond and reverberate all the way back to the other. I've tried stopping the ripples in my pond with little success. Sometimes time and a little bit of self-care are the only things that bring back balance. I have to keep realistic expectations. Rarely is the water on anyone's pond completely still. Usually there is a slight breeze blowing or other things that can cause tiny ripples. Every human being experiences this. It's my awareness, my resolve to change, and a little surrendering that keeps my ripples manageable and my loved ones dry. Change takes time. It's a practice that takes practice. The only way to learn how to swim is to get in the water. I call it the warrior's training grounds. It's when we can apply all of the coping techniques we've learned. So what's happening in your pond right now? Take a moment and check in with yourself and let us know in the comments. The comments are like the heartbeat of the Polar Warrior community, and I enjoy reading them very much. If you want to message me directly and/or help my team reach more people, there's a link at the top of every video description. Please check it out. We need your support to keep a good thing going. Take extra good care this week, and I'll be back here soon with more Polar Warrior videos. Stay well.